What's up, guys? It's Tyler McKinney back here again, and today we're going to look at some XFL football. If it's your first time here, hey, I'm glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back and thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't, consider subscribing. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get into the content. So today we're going to continue on looking at the XFL coaching staffs. Now, we're just looking at the coaching staffs. We're not really going into like player personnel and what we think that how things are going to, transpire and what I think about the personnels and what's going to be ran and stuff. We're just purely looking at the coaching staffs and my thoughts on the coaching staffs. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into looking at it. We're going to look at the St. Louis BattleHawks. That's right. We're looking at St. Louis today, and that all starts with Jonathan Hayes. Now, if you feel like this is kind of a reoccurring theme, it is. We've got another guy that started his coaching career out, or at least spent some time in his early career at Oklahoma, coaching for, that's right, you guessed it, Bob Stoops. And so he started out coaching with Bob Stoops and kind of worked his way up from there. And the last place we saw him was in Green Bay, and so he was with the Green Bay with the tight ends. And if that name rings a bell, it's because he's got a brother that also coaches. And believe it or not, his brother is a defensive-minded coach, and he's been in the NFL, but he decided that he's going to come and he's going to coach the defense for his brother Jonathan. That's right. We got Jay Hayes, who's going to be the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach for the BattleHawks. So let's just start there. I think they're pretty much going to be running a nice 4-3 offense that might morph into something slightly different. That I don't know. We will see with that. We've got another guy that you might recognize. We've got Tim Lewis, who's going to be coaching the defensive backs. He's a guy that is from the AAF. He was the head coach for the Birmingham Iron and actually ran a really good defense there in Birmingham. So I'm actually kind of excited to see. We really don't have they're not really prominent when it comes to head coaching type of experience. But when it comes to guys that know their stuff, when you start looking at the position coaches, I'm looking at guys like Tim Lewis, Jay Hayes, Doug Meacham, and that, and I would have to say that they really are bringing it. And Tim Lewis is a guy who is definitely a defensive-minded guy, and his Birmingham Iron team, they played a really good sound defense, and I'm excited to see what he can do with the defensive backs because his defensive backs played really, really well in the AAF, and I mean their defense as a whole, that's really what kept them in a lot of their games with that because their offense was inconsistent at best. Let's just put it that way. So it's kind of cool to see him to continuing on. And again, we've got, just on the defensive side of things, looks like we've also got a Chris Crocker who is going to be helping out on the defensive side of things. And, Chris was with the Atlanta Legends the last time we saw them. He was helping them out. And then we also got, and I apologize, Matt Reach, or Rach, however you pronounce his name. He was a guy that coached for the Cincinnati Bengals, so he probably gets his ties from coach, the head coach Hayes, with his time when he was over there in Cincinnati. And so, defense. I think that they're probably going to be aggressive 4-3 defense that you might see morph into some slightly different things here and there, but I think probably base defense are probably going to run a 4-3 style defense and probably be a fairly aggressive style defense. That's just my thoughts. Like I said, we'll go into player personnel and what I think they're going to do and where their strengths will be at a later time. All right, let's flip the coin and let's look at this offense. Now, like I said, Coach Jonathan Hayes has that Oklahoma background, and coming from that background, more than likely they're going to be running an air raid style offense. But this air raid style offense, I think, is going to not be so much crazy pass heavy, and it might have a little bit more emphasis on the run. with that, I think that when they brought in Doug Meacham is a guy who, if you remember back to those TCU days when TCU was making some college football playoff runs back in 2014, and they had one of the top teams in the in college football, and they just missed out on the college football playoff. Doug was running the offense, and they were running like kind of this pistol kind of style offense a little bit with mixed in with the air raid, and they were very they did a lot of running. Gary Patterson likes to run the ball, and so having that with it, I think that you're going to kind of see that kind of hybrid air raid, which I think will be really, really cool. With that, so again, it's like one of these things to where we're seeing this up. If you've been paying attention to the coaching staffs, a lot of high-powered offensive from the offensive side of things. Now let's go ahead and let's look at some of the other guys. We've got. And he was also spent some time at Kansas City. So when we look at Doug Meacham, he's another guy that's looking to prove himself. The last job he was at, he was the offensive coordinator for the Kansas Jayhawks. And if you know the Kansas Jayhawks, they haven't had a very good football program. So I think he's definitely got something to prove. Let's look at some guys here. So we've got Chuck Long, who was... Again, he's a guy who has some ties to Doug Meacham with the fact that he was also over at Kansas. So I'd imagine that they're probably going to run the same style of offense that they ran when they were running things over there at Kansas. And we've got some guys that we got Brian. Braswell. He was kind of a quality control guy with the Cleveland Browns, so definitely got some coaching experience from the NFL. So we've got that, and then Azari Hakeem. His previous job was with the wide receivers at the San Diego Fleet with the AAF. So as I'm looking at this, I really. I like this coaching staff. This coaching staff is one that has guys with a lot of coaching experience, and it seems to be that it's funny how there's connections to each other with these guys. So these guys are familiar with each other. So when they come to the table, they're not all going to be coming from, different sides of the world and, with different viewpoints. They're going to be coming kind of from kind of the same schemes. And like I said, I think that this is going to be an aggressive defense. And I think that on offense, they're going to focus on the run. Obviously, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a hybrid of kind of the air raid. With a little bit more focus on the run. I still think they're going to sling the ball around. There's no doubt about that. But I feel like they're going to have a little bit more emphasis on the run. The thing that kind of concerns me is that they definitely have a lot of guys with a lot of leadership in coaching positions. Whether you got Tim Lewis, Jay Hayes, and Jonathan Hayes, and Doug Meacham, but really not a lot of guys that we've seen that have had success in a head coaching job position. Doug Meacham's been a head coach before, didn't really do very well. Jonathan Hayes is, his last stints have really been as position coaches, so he's making a big step up. Tim Lewis, like I said, he coached and did fairly well in the AAF, but he's not the head coach. So we'll see what happens here. I'm just a little bit hesitant that this might be one of those type of things where we've got a lot of talent, a lot of good ideas, but not really the leader to step up to make the right decisions in a game time situation, that could change a game and turn a game towards you or not towards you. And, I just don't see the experience there, but who knows? They could come right out and they could just make a big splash, especially with St. Louis. St. Louis is one of those teams that have been getting a lot of support from their local community there. And so if they can play well and they can do well, I think that they could be like the San Antonio team of the XFL, like where San Antonio just had a great following and they did really well in the AAF when it comes to like merchandising and, the city, coming around them and really embracing them and taking them in. I see that a lot with St. Louis. I see St. Louis, kind of the whole community coming around this team and really accepting this team and getting excited about this team. Their sales have been doing really well, and there's been a lot of buzz about this team. So I'm really kind of excited to see this team, excel and hopefully succeed. Also, again, we're not going to get into too much detail, but they've got a quote-unquote rookie as their quarterback. So it'll be kind of cool to see how that all happens. So you got kind of like rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback all starting together. Definitely something to pay attention to and something that we can get into. Well, that's my thoughts. The question is, what do you think? I'd love to hear down in the comments what you think about this coaching staff, what you think about, the St. Louis BattleHawks, anything that you guys have. You guys are awesome because you come to this table with ideas and things that I just don't ever come up with. And so sometimes I'm just blown away by the comments that you have and the things that you leave down in the comment section. So please leave me a comment down in the comment section. And that's pretty much it. So I know that you're busy and know that I'm busy. So let's get on out of here. You have a good night. All right. Bye.